Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Buccaneers wide receiver position and kind of the pecking order of that position group. We are also going to be talking about Jameis Winston's expectations for this upcoming season, and then finally, we are going to be talking about a potential Duke Johnson to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trade. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. First thing that I want to talk about is the Buccaneers wide receiver position. Now, I'm going to say this right away. It is pretty much 100% established by the fan base, media members, Buccaneers content creators, everybody, even those in the front office and in the coaching staff, is that Mike Evans is the number 1 wide receiver and Chris Godwin is the number 2 wide receiver. In the case of Mike Evans, he's a top 5 wide receiver in this league. We all know this. And then in the case of Chris Godwin, he is definitely a young, emerging star at the position as well. A lot of people in the national media and whatnot have pegged Godwin as one of the breakout stars on this Buccaneers offense for this upcoming season. So again, safe to say those two are the starting 2 wide receivers. After that, things get a little bit more murky and a little bit more of a question mark and a little bit more of a position battle that a lot of people are going to have to see coming into training camp, because you have guys like Breshad Perriman, who is a recent free agency addition that the Buccaneers made this current offseason. You also have Justin Watson and Scottie Miller. Justin Watson was a former 5th round draft pick for the Buccaneers last offseason, and Scottie Miller was a 6th round draft pick for the Buccaneers this offseason. You also can't count out an undrafted guy like Bobo Wilson, who, yes, he was undrafted, but he has been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the past 2 years, and I think that there is something to be said for that. And then finally, you have a litany of undrafted free agents who could make a name for themselves and really come on strong and potentially make not just the roster, but also carve a role for themselves on this offense as well. You have guys like Cortrell Simpson, Spencer Schnell, Bryant Mitchell, Xavier Ubosi, KJ Brent, DeMarcus Lodge, and Anthony Johnson. So really, it's the waters are murky after Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in terms of who's going to make a name for themselves, who's going to carve out a role for themselves, and this, that, and the other. So let's talk about it real quick. I think in terms of, say, like slot wide receiver, who's going to fit in that slot wide receiver role, first things first is that I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and O.J. Howard in that position. But aside from those 3 guys, I think that right now the favorite has to either be Breshad Perriman or Scottie Miller. A lot of people have been raving about the speed and just the overall quickness of Breshad Perriman since the Buccaneers brought him in as a free agent addition. He is a former 1st round draft pick, so he does have some just raw ability and raw potential that can potentially be tapped into by Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians. Now, up until this point in joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Perriman has not had the greatest of numbers. His best year came in 2016, his rookie year with the Baltimore Ravens, where he finished with 33 receptions, 499 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. But I still like to think that the potential to be this really nice slot receiver and this really nice deep threat for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is there. And don't let the size fool you. You know, 6'2", 215 pounds. He can still be a slot wide receiver in this league. I've seen a lot of people with similar builds to Breshad Perriman still be able to be a very efficient slot receiver, and I think that Perriman's speed is going to help him a lot in terms of the wide receiver battle for this upcoming training camp, okay? Because he has the size, he has the speed. If he just gets a little bit more consistency with his hands and whatnot, I think that Perriman has a very, very good shot of being that kind of rotational starting slot wide receiver type of guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But again, you can't count on a guy like Scottie Miller, 6th round draft pick for the Buccaneers this offseason. The guy is just so fast, like it's actually insane. He could definitely be a speed threat for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well, and a lot of people have pegged him as the Adam Humphries replacement. I wouldn't necessarily say that, because in my opinion, yes, while they have a similar build, Adam Humphries is a little bit bigger, but I would like to think that Scottie Miller is just a little bit faster, a little bit quicker than Adam Humphries. I think that Adam Humphries was definitely a sure-handed possession type of wide receiver, whereas Scottie Miller, he can catch the ball very well, but I think that his most notable traits relate to his speed and his deep threat receiver ability. So he, in my opinion, is right behind Perriman in terms of guys who are the favorite to be that slot receiver, but I still think that he has a very, very strong chance if he makes a name for himself in training camp and impresses the coaches there. Guys like Justin Watson, and among a couple other guys in the undrafted free agent category, guys like Anthony Johnson, DeMarcus Lodge, and a few other guys, I just don't think that their fit is with the slot receiver position. I think that they're more outside wide receivers, especially for guys like Justin Watson, Anthony Johnson, DeMarcus Lodge. They're kind of just their builds and their overall talents don't necessarily equate to working in the slot receiver role. So I think that they would have a little bit more of a outside wide receiver ability rather than a slot wide receiver ability. And then finally mentioning Bobo Wilson, there is a reason that he has been on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster the past 2 years. Obviously, the front office staff likes him. He is undrafted, and he hasn't done a whole lot in his career up to this point. He's had 5 receptions, 70 yards, and 1 touchdown, but you can never count him out. Again, he's been the underdog. He's, scrapped his way onto the roster the past 2 years, and there is something to be said for that. So I think that, you can't really count out Bobo Wilson either. But in my opinion, for the slot wide receiver right now, I would say the favorite is Brashad Perriman, then probably Scottie Miller, and then after that, you'd probably have Bobo Wilson among a couple of those other undrafted free agents. Next thing I want to talk about is a potential Duke Johnson to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trade. Now, I talked about this 2 months ago, but Dog Pound Daily, Brad Gagnon of the Bleacher Report, and Fred the Corp on Instagram. If you guys haven't followed him yet, go check him out on Instagram. He posts a lot of Bucs stuff, and it's a lot of pretty cool discussion, in my opinion. But anyway, the point is that they all think that a Duke Johnson trade to Tampa Bay is a realistic possibility. Now, Gagnon of Bleacher Report specifically speculates in the article that it would probably take a day 2 pick, which means a second or a third round pick for the Bucs to get Duke Johnson from the Browns. Now, again, I'm still on board with a Duke Johnson to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trade. Would I like it to happen? Yeah, I would be pretty chill if it happened, but do I think it's going to happen? No, probably not, especially if the asking price is a second or third round draft pick. I think that if you can get Duke Johnson for less than that, say like a 5th, 6th round draft pick, then yes, you should do that. But because I think that at the absolute worst, you're getting a very good receiving running back that'll really kind of solidify a 3-headed rushing attack between guys like Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, and Duke Johnson. That's like the worst case scenario. And in the best case scenario, you're getting a just good, very, very, very good running back who can be a starting guy for you. Now, the reason I don't think it's going to happen is because of all the things that have been said, all the positive things that have been said about Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones. There have just been raves upon raves for both those guys from the front office and the coaching staff and everybody else in between. So I think that this trade isn't going to happen, but it is still something that I wanted to talk about because I like talking about trades. It's always fun to speculate, in my opinion, and again, in my opinion, I think that it would be a good trade for the Buccaneers to make. I just wouldn't pay a second or a third round draft pick for it. Finally, I want to talk about Jameis Winston's expectations for this upcoming season, the 2019-2020 season. How is Jameis Winston going to do, and is it going to earn him a contract extension? Well, honestly, I think it all boils down to whether or not he can stay healthy. And I'm not saying that Jameis Winston is injury prone or he has injury problems. No, nothing like that. But I think that when Jameis Winston was fully healthy and there wasn't any drama surrounding him, there was no suspensions or nagging shoulder injuries that bothered him, he put out his best year. Now, I want to talk about 2017 and 2018 Jameis Winston real quick because those past 2 years, those past 2 seasons have not been very good for Winston. In 2018, he was obviously suspended due to the Uber incident, and he dealt with the drama of Dirk Cutter and Ryan Fitzpatrick. It seemed like both those guys, I'm not going to say that Ryan Fitzpatrick was against Jameis Winston, nothing like that, but I think it was safe to say that Dirk Cutter, he really wasn't, thinking about building up Jameis Winston. I think that he was just trying to do everything he could to save his job, essentially, and in my opinion again, but I think that all of that really affected Jameis Winston's mindset for that past season and really affected his play overall, and obviously he didn't play the entire season, not just due to the suspension, but also due to the fact that Dirk Cutter was benching him multiple times this past season. And then finally in 2017, he hurt his shoulder, and he tried to play through a hurt shoulder, which definitely could have affected his play in a major way. Look at what happened to Cam Newton when he's playing with a hurt shoulder. It has majorly majorly affected his play. So obviously 2018, 2017, those 2 seasons were rough for Jameis Winston. He missed multiple games either by injury or by suspension. So now he's fully healthy. He has no off-the-field issues right now, and he's got Bruce Arians by his side. What can we possibly expect for Jameis Winston for this upcoming season? Well, I want to take you back to 2016, Jameis Winston's second year in the league, which in my opinion was his best year by far, where he had 4,090 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, in a 9-7 record. And I'm here to tell you guys right now that in my opinion, if Jameis Winston has a very, very similar stat line to what he posted in 2016, including the record, he's going to get a contract extension. Hands down. If he leads this team to say 7, 8, or 9 wins, putting up 24 to 28 touchdowns, maybe he cuts down his interceptions from say 18 to 14, and he still puts up 4,000 to say like 3,800 to 4,000 passing yards, he's going to get a big contract extension, hands down. And I think that with the current mold and the current set of circumstances that are surrounding Jameis Winston right now, I think it's entirely possible for him to put up 2016 Jameis Winston-esque numbers. So I think that's going to be a very, very interesting thing to look forward to is, how is Jameis Winston going to do now that all the injuries are done, all of this drama surrounding him with the suspension and whatnot is done? How are we going to see Jameis Winston bounce back from these past 2 seasons? And it's definitely going to be something to look forward to. I think that, again, if we could see 2016 version of Jameis Winston, I think that he's going to get a contract extension, hands down. But guys, let me know what you think about all of this down in the comment section below. What do you think about the Buccaneers wide receiver position? What do you think about the possibility of a Duke Johnson trade with the Cleveland Browns? And finally, what are your expectations for Jameis Winston in the 2019-2020 season? Let me know what you think about all of that down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed, but until the next video or the next live stream, I will see you in the next one. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now, guys, and go Bucs.